Welcome to those who have just joined. We'll be getting started in just a moment. And if you have any questions already ready to go, you can type them in the chat. I see we have some more joining. And so I had just mentioned that we'll be getting started in just a moment. And if you have any questions already formulated, you may type them in the chat if you desire. Once we get started, you can unmute and ask your question verbally if you wish. Okay, so welcome for those who are in attendance thus far, and just a little note here. This is not a webinar per se, so you do not need to stay for any particular length of time. We are here holding an open house to answer any questions that you may have regarding AAOMCP, regarding HCC risk adjustment, regarding any of our other courses, any questions that we can answer to be able to assist you. That is the purpose of today. And so we do have the absolute best program in the industry for HCC and risk adjustment. And that may sound like a bold statement. And let me just give you a little background on that. There's been a certification in place for 8 years. This program has been in existence for going on 14 years. So this program existed long before there was a certification. Since the certification, we have facilitated over 7,000 professionals for success on the certification exam. And when I say the certification exam, there are actually several certification exams. So But so one is has been developed much more recently. So, when we use that number of 7,000, it was at a time, pretty much when there was a single option. So let me just open the floor here and ask. Obviously you received or viewed our invitation to attend, and you're here. So before I go down the road of some other explanations, do you have any questions? And if you do, you can either type them in the chat, or you may unmute yourself and you may ask any questions that you have. So before I start going through, various elements here, let's get to, questions first. Does anybody have any questions that they came prepared to ask? And again, you may type it into chat, and you may unmute and ask your question. And by the way, I'm not sure if I did this or not. My name is Douglas Palmer, and I am the founder and CEO of AAOMCP, which stands for American Association of Medical Coding Professionals. And I have been in this field for going on 33 years. I got into the field in 1990, and I have been a lot of places and done a lot of things. And for nearly 20 years, I have, in addition to all other things that I had going on, for 20 years, I have been a trainer, educator, mentor in the field. So, and that is probably the most gratifying part of, and I've had a lot of wins, a lot of successes, a lot of fulfilling opportunities in my career. None compares to the ability to help others advance their career objectives, and that's why I get out of bed in the morning. Really, I absolutely love helping others enjoy what I've enjoyed over the past several decades. So that's a little bit about me. Again, does anybody have any questions before I start talking about the program just a little bit? Okay, so and feel free to jump in at any time. Again, I'm just going over some information to provide some background, but my purpose here today is to answer questions. And so I do want to start with a very simple fact, okay? If you assign codes, you are a risk adjustment coder. Okay, I hear this all the time. People say, well, I'm not a risk adjustment coder. I don't want to be a risk adjustment coder. And the fact is, if you assign codes, you are a risk adjustment coder. And the reason is, and I'll explain risk adjustment here in a bit, but everything in risk adjustment comes from provider documentation and the codes assigned based on that documentation. Okay, so if you are assigning codes, you are impacting risk adjustment. Okay, so this is really key, and we'll talk about guidelines and such here in a minute. So let's talk a little bit about risk adjustment, and I want to state here that this is not, again, this is a Q&A, an open house, here to answer questions. So this is not a course, and this is not not intended to be a course, and certainly not, we're certainly not able to provide a full course in this brief time here today. But just to give you a little bit of an overview, okay? And first of all, risk adjustment is a broad term, okay, that applies to all major payer categories: Medicare, Medicaid, and commercial. Okay, so I'm gonna be using the Medicare risk adjustment here for illustration, because if you understand Medicare risk adjustment, you are way down the road of understanding risk adjustment as it may apply to Medicaid and commercial, especially commercial, because the commercial is a very close parallel to the Medicare risk adjustment. But so just a real quick overview, and actually I want to start here in the middle, okay? Risk adjustment primarily only deals with diagnosis codes, okay? So procedure codes have virtually no impact on risk adjustment, okay? And so one of the things that I find is many certified coders are simply not masterful or proficient as proficient as they should be in diagnosis coding. Now, I'm not saying that to offend anybody. If you feel that you are, that's terrific. But there are independent, unbiased, statistical, and anecdotal elements that I'll explain in a moment that reflect the fact that many coders do not have full mastery or proficiency to the degree that they should in diagnosis coding, okay? And here is my opinion on why. Many people take courses where the focus is on the assignment of procedure codes, or what some may say are billable codes, okay? And so I want to just say right here that diagnosis codes have a financial impact, in ways that you may not necessarily understand, okay? And that's why it's a wise thing to be, at least if you're not going to get certified in risk adjustment, it's a wise idea to be knowledgeable about risk adjustment. And we have the very best program in the industry. We offer a support 365 days a year. We offer live instructors that others charge an additional $1,000 on top of $1,000 for a course. Okay, we offer more tools, resources, anything, and we've had phenomenal success in teaching the program. So, when I say that, if you visited our site, you probably should have seen a place where you could view our Better Business Bureau reviews, which are 100% 5-star reviews, and you can see what people said. So I will put that in a moment. I will put that link in chat if you wish to view those. So back to ICD-10. Okay, and so here is one of the things about ICD-10 that, I've highlighted in yellow here, some important elements right from the first page of the ICD-10 CM official guidelines for coding and reporting, okay? And let's look at that first sentence. It's here: adherence to these guidelines when assigning ICD-10 CM diagnosis codes is required under HIPAA. Okay? It's not optional. It's not, it's required by federal law. Okay? And this is where I often ask people very, very basic questions about ICD-10 and official guidelines, et cetera. And it's amazing how many times I get either a blank stare or I don't know or what have you. And there's this stark reality that these people are these professionals that I speak to. If I ask them a question about procedure codes, they are likely to answer it. So it demonstrates that they are hyper focused on procedure codes, which also are required by law. Okay, but it's not 1 out of 3, 2 out of 3. There are 3 major code sets, and everybody, if you are a professional coder, and when I say professional coder, that doesn't even necessarily mean certified. Certification is certainly a valuable benchmark, a valuable accomplishment. But I coded for 10 years before I ever got certified. And there's no exemption that if you're not certified, if you are doing it wrong, that you're somehow given a pass. Okay, so if you are assigning codes, certified or not, you are responsible for that code assignment. Okay, so very important to make sure that you are as proficient, knowledgeable, masterful at ICD-10 as you are, HCPCS or CPT. So the ICD-10 guidelines are adopted under HIPAA for all healthcare settings. Okay, so another thing I hear oftentimes is, oh, that applies to inpatient, or I hear all kinds of different things that are simply not accurate, and I wonder where these, I don't know if these are self-generated notions or what have you, but again, it's very important. First sentence, ICD-10 required under HIPAA, so it's required under federal law, applies to all healthcare settings. Okay, and healthcare provider and the coder, cooperative effort between the healthcare provider and the coder is essential to achieve complete and accurate documentation, code assignment, and reporting of diagnoses and procedures. Okay, so hopefully we'll get to look at a chart here where I can maybe help demonstrate this. But again, the purpose here is to really highlight and emphasize that if you have been trained or been exposed only to an emphasis on procedure coding, please don't be naive or oblivious or unaware that your ICD-10 codes are equally as important, just as scrutinized, just as auditable as your procedure codes are. And so let's look at another note here: the importance of consistent, complete documentation in the medical record cannot be overemphasized. And this is not me saying this. This is directly from the official guidelines for coding and reporting for ICD-10. Okay. Without such documentation, accurate coding cannot be achieved. The entire record should be reviewed to determine the specific reason for the encounter and the conditions treated. Okay. So I wanted to start there as far as ICD-10 and the very real disparity between procedure coding and diagnosis coding, and it's the proficiency of many professionals. Okay, so now I'm going to get back to talking a little bit about risk adjustment. Okay, and again, I'm gonna be describing the Medicare risk adjustment for example's sake, but remember, risk adjustment applies to commercial and to Medicaid as well, with some variations, with some differences. Okay, so many in the field, especially unless maybe you're really new, maybe just got trained, maybe just got certified, maybe haven't worked yet. If you've been in the field for any length of time, and it does not have to be years and decades, you're probably familiar with Medicare, right? And so there are 4 parts to Medicare: Part A, Part B, Part C, Part D. Okay. And so Medicare Part A and Part B are is CMS, Medicare. Part A is hospital, inpatient stays, etc. Part B is, medical providers, doctors, labs, diagnostics, etc. Okay. And that is what is, commonly referred to as traditional Medicare, standard Medicare, etc. Okay. And so even when you submit a claim, when a claim is submitted to Medicare, Part A or Part B, it isn't submitted to CMS. Okay. Now, it is, but it is submitted to CMS through what are called Medicare Administrative Contractors, or MACs. Okay. And the MACs are the claims department for Medicare, among other things. They have a great broad range of responsibilities. And we actually have in our system, we have a interview with the CEO of MAC, who really does a great job of explaining MACs and understanding MACs. But so when a claim is submitted either by a hospital on a UB, or by a physician or other, Part B provider on a 1500 form, it is submitted to a MAC. Okay. And then the claim is paid under the standard Medicare, outpatient Part B deductible, 80/20, what have you, or if it's Part A, the inpatient deductible, and then there's co-insurance days, there's lifetime reserve days, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. But so Part A and Part B is inpatient, outpatient, Part A, Part B, and the claims are submitted to MACs. Now, under risk adjustment, okay, beneficiaries who are on Part A and Part B can opt out of Part A and Part B and be covered by a commercial carrier contracted to provide the same benefits as Medicare. As a matter of fact, it's a law that if they're a Medicare Advantage plan, that they must provide all of the same benefits that Part A and Part B offer, but many offer more. Okay. So, here we have a card, Aetna, but it could be United Health Group, Anthem, Humana, Cigna, whatever. Okay. Even health systems, many large health systems have their own health plans. So, so in this case, CMS is now purchasing this coverage on behalf of the beneficiary. Okay, so they are paying this commercial Medicare Advantage plan a premium each month to cover the beneficiary. Okay, and the amount that they pay, the premium that they pay, there's 4 parts to it. Okay, there's one part that every beneficiary, the insurance carrier is compensated for, and that's a demographic, age, gender, original reason for entitlement to Medicare, whether they aged in or were for disability, etc. So that will be the first part to a risk score. Now, but this term risk adjustment, that premium can and is adjusted based on risk, financial risk that the carrier who is now responsible for paying the claims assumes. Okay, and so Just a quick example: if a patient A is healthy, has no major conditions, maybe has a rash once a year, or a splinter, or cuts themselves cutting vegetables and they need stitches. The typical, very 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 standard type of healthcare encounters. That's not something that's incorporated in a risk adjustment. But so we have patient A, beneficiary A, who is just of good standard health. Okay, and now we have beneficiary B, who has diabetes. Okay, so I don't think it's a stretch, or should be particularly troublesome to understand that patient who has diabetes is gonna be costlier to cover. They're gonna they're gonna have more encounters per year, diagnostic testing. They're at risk for progression of disease, etc. So diabetes is a condition that would qualify for what's called an HCC under risk adjustment. And so now there's going to be a value attached to that diabetes that will, now the health plan is going to get more for that beneficiary who has diabetes than beneficiary A, who has no significant health conditions. Okay. And so there are 115 of these HCCs. So I was using diabetes as an example. There are 4 HCCs in the diabetes category. Okay. And it's kind of like the ringing the bell. It's whatever the highest weighted of the 4 would be counted in the beneficiary's risk score to increase that premium payment to the the carrier. Okay, and I do want to just interject here. Risk adjustment is not about reimbursement or claims payment to the providers. Okay, risk adjustment is how much this carrier who has assumed the responsibility for payment of claims receives based on the health status of the patient. Okay, and then so of course hospitals and providers have several different incentives to optimize the risk adjustment process. A, it's federal law. B, you certainly want your carrier to have its full complement of financial resources, because what is that going to impact if they don't? The claims reimbursement rates, right? So if the insurance carrier is taking on more risk and they're not getting credit for that increased risk, well, then they're going to have less money, and their contracted rates are going to be lower. So so it does impact financial reimbursement to providers in that regard. It may not be as obvious in your face, etc., but it is it is a factor. But between that financial consideration and anything else, is its compliance. Okay, everything in risk adjustment comes from provider documentation and the codes properly and accurately assigned based on that documentation. Okay, so again, just to recap, you have Medicare Part A and Part B, where claims are submitted by providers to a MAC, and this is your standard, that EO, that black and white EOB, where the 80/20, your standard CMS EOB. But you may have I mean, now we're approaching half of Medicare beneficiaries are on Medicare Advantage plans. So if you're coding for somebody, now let's just use, just a rule of thumb, because not everybody is on Medicare at age 65. If they're still working, or their spouse is still working, they're still covered by a commercial plan, they may not be on Medicare. But just let's take the standard case. Somebody's 67. Okay, if you're coding a record for a 67-year-old, you should not be wondering or considering, is this patient a regular Medicare patient or a Medicare Advantage patient? It shouldn't matter if you're coding according to the official guidelines for coding and reporting. Okay, then you are following the prescribed protocol, the compliance, all of those things, and of course you should be as knowledgeable as you can as a professional. But if not, it is absolutely essential, as I said, as I started by pointing out, the ICD-10 CM codes are required by federal law under HIPAA, all healthcare settings, and this is only from page 1 of the over 100 pages that are of the official guidelines on coding and reporting that describe the importance and the guidelines that apply to ICD-10 coding. Okay, so I want to as I mentioned, risk adjustment applies to all 3 major payer categories. Okay, so I did just describe generally the CMS, the Medicare risk adjustment, and I just described that it was an overview. There's so much more to know. But risk adjustment does not simply apply to Medicare. It applies to Medicaid and to it applies to Medicare, Medicaid, and commercial alike. Okay. I do want to go back, and I just want to talk about our program for a moment. And I said it was the best in the industry, and that is not, I'm the primary author of the course. I'm the primary instructor for the risk adjustment course, and so I'm proud of that, and I'm invested in that. Emotionally, financially, everything. But I'm not saying that to brag. There are courses out there that charge over $1,000 for a program without an instructor. To add an instructor is $1,000 add-on, and it's a very limited amount of time with the instructor, typically 16 weeks, 1 hour a week at a set time, shared with all the other registrants in the course. Okay, which is, that's one thing. Okay, but as of December 7th, 2023, this one particular course has on their website that there are 79 currently 79 HCCs and 3,034 ICD-10 CM codes that relate to Medicare risk adjustment, and that has not been, there have not been 79 HCCs since 2019, and there have not been 3,034 ICD-10 codes since 2015. So their information that they display on their website is, in some degrees, almost a decade old. Okay, and just to prove that point, at the top of the screen here is the current and official model information from CMS. And I mentioned since 2019, there had been 86 HCCs, and now in 2023, we have moved to 115 HCCs. Okay. The 3,034 diagnosis codes, that was in ICD-9, which ended September 30th, 2015. Okay. And so when I say that we are the leading program, it's not just to brag, or it's not to boast, or it's not, a biased opinion. We work very hard to keep our program up to date, up to the minute, because there's many changes, frequent and many changes. Okay. And again, in 2023, we have gone from 86 HCCs to 115, and we've actually dropped down from almost 10,000 diagnosis codes down to almost 8,000 diagnosis codes. So while the number of HCCs went up, the number of qualifying diagnosis codes went down. And so my point here is that we take it very seriously to provide complete and current information. I do want to share this, okay? And you may remember I said that if you assign codes, you are a risk adjustment coder, whether you know it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you embrace it or not, you are, okay? And you may, if you are vigilant in the industry or vigilant even, to information, publicly available information about, the Medicare program. Okay. Maybe you've seen on the news or what have you that there's concerns about the Medicare program and its solvency and its sustainability, et cetera. Okay. And if you've done any training in this field, you're probably familiar with the term the False Claims Act. The general term of compliance, and compliance often relates to financial transactions and medical necessity to support billing, et cetera, et cetera. And so in risk adjustment, which is, for Medicare has existed for 20 years, there has been a very, very obvious, identifiable, and even under the Department of Justice and the Office of the Inspector General, OIG, they have they are regularly pursue non-compliance that costs the program billions of dollars. Okay. And it has gotten to the point where there was a bill introduced in Congress called the No Unreasonable Payments for the Elderly Act, or the No Upcode Act. Okay. And without going into it, it would take me 30 minutes to explain the history, and I'm not going to do that at this moment. But in the past, these Medicare Advantage plans had medical coders go through the records and independently pull out diagnoses, to make sure that they got credit for them. And that's where a lot of the abuse has come in. And so there was a bill introduced into Congress that has not been passed yet, because as you may have seen or heard, Congress seems to be a bit dysfunctional at the moment. But this bill, among other things, prohibits inclusion of diagnoses collected from the chart reviews. Okay. And so the outcome of that, the result of that is going to be that this is going to, this already exists. The onus, the responsibility of providers and their coders to code properly, accurately, by guidelines, etc. But this will be if this bill passes, it will put all of the responsibility squarely on providers. So, and if this bill doesn't pass, it's not, the notion and the fact that there's widespread abuse and significant overspending in the program. If this bill doesn't pass, you can be assured that it will either be revised or it's not just going to go away. So again, it's very important for us to, as medical coders, to understand this thing called risk adjustment. Okay. And I just want to go back to, a little overview of, why our program has been so successful and why our program is a really, really good choice. And before I even, do this slide, our other programs, started $1,300, $1,400, $1,500. And then if you want a live instructor, you need to add $1,000 to that. Our program is normally $500, which is 1/3 of even the starting price of others. Okay. However, you have the opportunity to enroll in our course. And we've been promoting this. I don't know if, for those who are on here, I don't know if you've seen this before, but I will share it today. And actually, so through tonight, it was supposed to be through tonight. You could enroll in our program for $29, but for those who are here, we'll extend that through Sunday. Okay, so you can enroll in the best program in the industry for $29. Okay, and but let's talk about what that is, what that includes. I have an 8-year-old son. Okay, and we haven't traveled since COVID. So by the time he was 5 years old, he had been to 31 states. Okay, because prior to COVID, I traveled around to different professional chapters, associations, etc., doing speaking engagements on risk adjustment. Since COVID, most of those have been virtual. But I have my son my son didn't go on all my trips, but at 5 years old he had been to 31 states. So I am nationally traveled, nationally recognized, nationally exposed as an expert in this field, because I've been involved in it the full 20 years it's existed. Okay. I've also been, and although this is my baby, I love risk adjustment. I love teaching risk adjustment. I teach all different kinds of coding from starting, professionals who have never been exposed to medical billing or coding. I've taught in career schools, brick and mortar schools, online, etc. So our program has more tools and resources that are included. They're not add-ons. They're included with the program. Okay. And so, we have ebooks. We got a couple different ebooks. One is the complete official HCC and risk adjustment resources ebook that takes you through, every regulatory and guideline element. Okay. For if you are already a risk adjustment coder and you're not, you haven't adapted to the changes that I mentioned, going from 86 HCCs to 115 HCCs, we have an ebook and a course on that. And this is included for the $29. We have a mock exam that it has been a absolute, nearly sure thing to prepare people for certification exams. By the time people get to an 80 on our mock exam, we're not aware of anybody who hasn't been successful on an exam. Okay. And in tandem with that, it is the personalized individual access to a live instructor that we feel those two elements together, provide that solid foundation for success. Clinical documentation. Again, this is something that others charge separately for and significantly for. Clinical documentation, which is you can't code properly without complete and accurate documentation, or as a coder, you may need to interact with providers to improve clinical documentation. You need to understand clinical. That's included with the program. We do a weekly chart review, practical review of a chart each week, and we have practice cases. So all these things are, we have the most up-to-date program. As I pointed out earlier, it's appalling to me that a program can have on their website information that has not been accurate since 2015 and states it as current in 2023. That is just absolutely mind-boggling to me. And again, the live support, and especially in the risk adjustment program, I'm it. I'm your live support. I mean, there's others who do assist, but this is, the risk adjustment, the HCC coding is my baby, and I'm very very hands-on with it, and very invested in it, and I do want to I said I was going to put this in your links here, so I want to share with you, if you are interested in seeing some reviews. I'm going to put a link. I'm going to put a link to our reviews in the chat, okay? And you can go and take a look at that. And so I'm pasting that in chat now. And I also urge you to, while you're at the Better Business Bureau, if there's other sources for training that you have considered, are considering, have had experience with, I do suggest that you compare, okay? We have an A+ rating, 100% 5-star reviews, no complaints that others have a significant number of complaints, etc. So I do recommend, I highly recommend that you be well informed, okay? And so I did mention credentials, and so I want to talk about that for a moment. There is one out there that has existed for a number of years, but do not assume that that is the only option. AAOMCP, which has, AAOMCP has been around since 1928. It is a cooperating party. It has official standing in the industry. As you can see from the official guidelines, is elsewhere from the first page of the official guidelines. These guidelines have been approved by the 4 organizations that make up the cooperating parties for ICD-10-CM, those being the American Hospital Association, AHA, the American Health Information Management Association, AHIMA, which I'm referencing here, CMS, and NCHS. Okay, so AHIMA, AHIMA has been around since 1928. It's nonprofit as opposed to for-profit, and it is an option that should be considered. And they have the risk adjustment coding RAC micro credential. If you take our program, we have a specialty certificate that you have the option of taking. Okay, so there are options. And another thing about risk adjustment and HCC coding is there anybody here? Maybe I could get yeses or nos to this question in chat. Okay, anybody here? A new coder finding it hard to get your first opportunity or an opportunity? Is there anybody here? Say yes, or if not, just say no in chat, just so I can get a feel here. But anybody here? Anybody here? A newer coder who has been challenged in getting their start in their career? No answer? No, nobody answering? You guys can hear me, right? Maybe I could get a yes to. I just started working with a company in September as an HCC coder. And how's that going? I will tell you, I have a number of people who, good. Okay, so very well. Okay, good. I have a number of people I'm working with who Also started, some of them started maybe a little earlier than you, maybe over the summer, maybe even in the spring, and some of them who didn't make it based on accuracy or productivity, and that is, and of course, accuracy is, I mean, again, if a trading organization doesn't have up-to-date information on how many HCCs or how many diagnosis codes, then it calls into question how well their training is on such things as the official guidelines for ICD-10-CM, which, if you are a HCC coder, you're not touching procedure codes, right? You're just dealing in the realm of diagnosis codes, right? And so there's two factors that are, two metrics that really are measured for risk adjustment coders, specifically, and those are productivity and accuracy. Accuracy is 95% or better, and it's very hard to achieve that if you are not at mastery level of diagnosis coding, of ICD-10-CM official guidelines on coding and reporting. Okay, and then if you understand the importance of mastering the guidelines, etc., but you have not done so, if you are constantly trying to learn the guidelines on the fly, that's going to impact your productivity. So, the two metrics are accuracy and productivity, and they really, they have some interdependence. Okay, and so again, back to the official guidelines for coding and reporting, absolutely, really essential for all coders to have mastery of that, whether you're going to be if you are a coder for a medical practice or a hospital, etc. I hear all the time, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me, I'm not a risk adjustment coder. If you are assigning codes, you are a risk adjustment coder, whether you acknowledge it or embrace it or not. Okay. And so here is, I put the link to our reviews there. You'll see 5 out of 5, A+ rating. Okay. And here are some of the, I didn't reduce this one, but here are just some of the comments that you will read there. Okay. I don't want to spend too much time on that. I don't want to be Mr. Bragg over here, but another thing about us, it isn't just what coders have said about us. For 6 years, until a merger changed the infrastructure at this health plan, for 6 years, we did work with the Medicare Advantage plan for, you may recognize this name, Harvard, Harvard Pilgrim, and it was associated with, yes, that Harvard. For 6 years, we did the grievances and appeals for both beneficiaries and for providers. Again, so this is not, this is not to brag. This is to substantiate our standing, our level of competence and respect in the industry. By the way, you see compliant coding. We did undergo a name change, and that's not unusual in the industry. Okay, AHIMA has actually changed names 3 times in its history, and another organization based out of Utah has changed names once or twice as well. So we were known as Compliant Coding Systems prior to American Association of Medical Coding Professionals. Excellent job in reviewing. Another item that's extremely important is diligence towards compliance. And, the vice president appreciated the opportunity to recommend us and myself. He mentions myself by name to detail and compliance. And so, I share that. I share that not to, again, not to be boastful, not to be a braggart or anything like that, but to substantiate our place and our experience in the industry and our respect in the industry. And so I do want to share, and I'm going to be putting some links in the chat here momentarily. But we have, again, this is not me saying this. This is not just me saying this, but this is, we have the absolute best program for risk adjustment. And I would even go so far as to say all of our programs, because we're not focused just on our risk adjustment program. We approach all of our training with the same diligence, same care, same focus on our registrants, etc. But we do have the best risk adjustment HCC program in the industry. And I am putting in chat right now several links, okay? And so I want to explain what these links are, okay? If you, the first one is, if you just want to brush up and make sure you're as proficient and masterful for ICD-10, we have a program for that, and that's right now through Sunday. I'm extending the dates because you guys are joining us here on Friday. But the ICD-10 review is $20. If you want the absolute best risk adjustment HCC program in the industry through Sunday, you can save well over $1,000. And if you compare it to other programs that include a live instructor, which comes with our program, you're saving well over $2,000 for a superior course. Okay. So that is $29. And then we have our VIP program, which through Sunday would be for $49, and that would include all the other two. And the VIP program includes all of our courses, all of our content. And one unique feature is that if there's something you want to learn and you don't see it in our inventory, you simply request it, and we will develop training on request. So, I mean, no other organization does that, and that's $49. No other organization is going to create a course that you request because you requested it, not for any price. And if they did, they would charge you thousands. Now, one of the things that people often equate price to quality or what have you. And I'm gonna share something with you here, folks. Okay. That is absolutely a misnomer. Okay. And the more expensive a course is, it is primarily a function of how much profit that organization is making from that course. Okay. And so I'm going to give you an example. So there's an organization out there that typically gives 4 months of access to any course that you purchase. Okay. And after that, it's $50 a month for a monthly extension. Okay. So now let's just look at that. Let's look at that 5th month. Okay. That 5th month is not costing them. You already purchased the course. You're just maintaining access to the same materials that you paid for. Why $50? I will tell you that they'll say, oh, well, it's to maintain access to the system, folks. For unlimited users in a learning system, and it varies from learning system to learning system, it is for our learning system, I'll be honest, it's about $2,500 a year, okay, to host all of our, whether we have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 registrants, doesn't matter. Some are 25,000, 50,000. I think the most expensive one I've seen is 100,000 a year. How many courses at $2,500 would cover that $100,000? Okay, that would be 40 courses when they're selling thousands of courses. So there is, trust me, there is no and look at that instance where 13, 1,400, $1,500 for a course with no instructor. Okay, I mean, it's PowerPoint presentations, and if you want additional resources, there are add-ons, additional charges. Okay, so let me just be frank with you. That is simply profit motive. Okay. And I will, especially our risk adjustment program, I will go head to head. There's no other program that offers all that we do in one place. Nobody offers it as well as we do, and there's no other program. We support our people 365 days a year, and I won't even say during business hours, because obviously Saturday and Sunday there are business hours, but overnights may push to morning a response, but we support our people 365 days a year, and that is unheard of in the industry. So I did want to share. I did put those 3 links there. I encourage you to take a look. Quite obviously, the $49 for the VIP program is your very, very best value. You're getting all of our courses with the same 365-day-a-year support, but we also do have, if you just want to earn risk adjustment, we have that for 29 through Sunday, and if you just want to brush up on your ICD-10, that's 20 through Sunday. And so that is that. And so that is, I do want to talk a little bit. I'll talk a little bit more about other things here in a moment, but I want to take a breath, and I want to stop and see if we have any questions so far. And you may unmute yourself, or you may type into chat if you have any questions. Does anybody have any questions on anything that I've spoken to thus far? Our friend who it became started. Well, I don't know if you were doing it before, but you mentioned September. You started with an organization in September. Since September, has there been anything in HCC coding that maybe you've wondered, haven't been able to get an answer on, afraid to ask, whatever, or do you feel like you could travel around and speak effectively on the subject? I'm being funny there. I'm trying to be funny there, but just because I've done that. But anything you feel there's any gaps in what and here's the other thing. And so hopefully, if you're gonna and if you want to answer that verbally, just unmute and interrupt me. But if not, if you want to type, if there's anything gnawing at you, but being an HCC coder, and again, everybody who assigns codes is an HCC coder, whether you know it or not, whether you embrace it or not. But being an HCC coder is, there's a certain knowledge base there. But if you have growth aspirations, growth goals in your career, especially if you are an HCC coder, you want to become an HCC coder, there's much more to learn, and some of it you should know even as an HCC coder. But if you want to grow and expand and and develop your career upwardly, then it's advisable to grow your knowledge base and your skills, knowledge, and capabilities. Okay. I did so I sidetracked myself back when I asked the question about if there was anybody, and I didn't get a yes or a no other than from the one person. But if you are somebody who has been challenged in finding opportunity, especially if you are a newer coder, so I'm gonna sidetrack myself again because I got a response here. I've picked up on HCC coding very quickly, but there are times I do struggle with understanding what to code from a chart, mostly hospital charts. Okay. And so I got to tell you, that's very well written. I mean, it's the classic case of you don't know what you don't know. You were very effective in articulating what you feel is your struggle, your Achilles heel, your blind spot, however you want to put it. So, I'd love to have you join us because we could certainly help you with that. Because once you have that understanding, and I could clear that up, 15, 30 minutes, session with you, I could get that cleared up for you. And it would, it wouldn't be it would solve a problem or an issue continuously. It wouldn't be a case by case basis, so that is, but I got to applaud you. You were able to articulate very effectively, very well, what you feel if there is some, some blind spot, you were able to articulate it very well. So applause to you. Okay. Now, did you have coding experience prior? Were you coding, elsewhere, prior to that? Or was this your first foray into, was this your first opportunity in medical coding? Okay. See, you did some coding with, and I won't mention the other organization, but was that HCC coding as well? Because that is, and that organization is now owned by, yeah. So your experience has been your experience, your coding experience has been exclusively risk adjustment HCC coding, correct? You never worked for a doctor's office coding orthopedics or primary care or, hospital doing ED coding, right? Okay. So was this so when I asked the question, you said I did do some coding with this other organization. That organization you last mentioned, was that your first? Are you still what I would call, let's say, a year or less in experience as far as your coding career? Okay. And so so very good. Now, did you, so and it really doesn't matter what certification, but from the time you got certified to your first opportunity, about how long was it? How long did it take you from getting certified to getting your first employment opportunity? Hanging on for an answer. I'd love to see the answer to this. But and so I'm going to continue with what I was 4 months. Okay. Um, 4 months. I applied at the end of May, about 2 days after getting RHIT. Okay, and great. And so 4 months I applied. So that's that is, if that may have seemed like an eternity, but that is actually quite good. And so, but I'm guessing from your responses and the way your responses are written, you seem like a very sharp person. Okay, so it's no surprise there. But let's talk about, for those people who may be new to the field, maybe just got trained, maybe even haven't even gotten certified yet, or are recently certified, and are concerned about opportunity or challenged in finding opportunity. I will tell you this: HCC risk adjustment is. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not using the term easy. I'm saying it's easier than many other areas of coding to get into. Okay, one reason is that it is a very focused skill set, in that it's strictly ICD-10. However, because it applies, and you may not necessarily, and I don't know, I know that I've managed medical practices, but I haven't managed a medical practice since I got involved in risk adjustment. But if I were a practice manager now, or a coding manager or whatever, I'll take an example. I worked for an orthopedic group, 10 surgeons, 10 PAs. Okay, so we had 20 providers. And if I were hiring for a coding billing position in that, practice today, yes, I'd be looking for CPT and procedure coding, but I would be equally testing and vetting somebody on their ICD-10, because whether you know it or not, these organizations are aware of and striving for optimal performance in risk adjustment. Okay, but as a risk adjustment coder, the experience you would get, you often see job posts, it requires 3 years of experience. Well, if you get into HCC coding and then want to branch out, later, this is going to be valid resume experience. And there's so many different factors. AI, the evolution of AI is there's so many changes in this field. So if you are a new coder and you want to, you're finding it difficult to, or even daunting to find your first opportunity, HCC and risk adjustment is it's an easier pathway. People find it, they're able to get employment opportunities sooner, etc., without the significant experience that other opportunities often require, etc., etc. So I see somebody else typed in here: I'm not new to HCC coding. I need a refresher. I'm not coding charts, so I've lost touch. I've been coding complete code capture. So, and that complete code capture is such a ambiguous term, and even organizations, apply it differently. So I will say this, and I certainly agree that if you feel you need a refresher, you should do that. Okay. But if you are doing complete code capture, if you are masterful in, proficient in your ICD-10 CM coding and applying guidelines, if you're doing complete code capture, you should be doing well as far as HCCs, because you're capturing both HCCs and non-HCCs, and again, if you are doing your if you're doing things, if you are doing things appropriately, in complete code capture, then it would by default be beneficial for, risk adjustment. But the other thing is, and I've learned this in my 30 plus years in this field, you've always got to be up to date, practiced, proficient, learning, constantly learning. Okay. If you're not, this is not a job. This is a career. You know what I mean? And those who treat it like a job often bring about some challenges, unnecessary challenges they bring upon themselves, because they're not embracing it as for what it is, which is a career, which is a vocation, which requires constant nurturing and growth, et cetera, et cetera. So, look, if you're, and I'm going to use this as an example, just, I'm not disparaging anybody or any particular job, but if you are the counter clerk at a convenience store, there's probably not a lot you have to do, over a year, 2 years, 5 years to keep up to date, et cetera, et cetera. That's a job. Okay. But coding is a career, and there's so much to know, and there's so many changes on a regular basis. Look at procedures and diagnosis codes are updated every single year. Okay. And so there's two sets of changes that it's a foregone conclusion that you've got to deal with each and every year. But then there's regulatory and compliance, guideline, all kinds of different changes that you must be dealing with on a regular basis as a professional. And so, that's why it's called professional. That's why you are a professional. That's why, so it is a career. And so it's important to either, occasionally do a refresher, or, as you said, I need a refresher. I'm not coding charts. So, although I don't understand that, I'm not coding charts, so I've lost touch. I've been coding complete code capture. So, I mean, I like that almost seems contradictory. I'm not coding charts, but I'm doing complete code capture. But I'm just struggling to understand that. But we certainly are here to help everybody and help everybody be absolutely the best that they can be. And I want to go back to my statement about money and profit and course prices and stuff. Look, if you take $29, $49, whatever, and compare that to $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500, or $2,300, $2,400, $2,500, clearly our motive is not price gouging. Okay, clearly our motive is not, look, of course we need to be profitable. Okay, but if we can be profitable, and of course this is a promotion right now because Monday it goes back to 500 for our course. But even at 500, that is a difference of $1,000 and even $2,000. Okay, and I can assure you that difference is completely profit, and that difference we offer more that as standard inclusions that others charge for add-ons. So I just want people to be aware that cost is not an indication of quality. Okay. And so I'll just leave it there. That is, as I said, we've got about the same number of people. I don't see anybody has joined since the beginning. Okay, so if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to be here, and this was scheduled for 2 hours. We're about an hour and 15 minutes in, an hour and 20 minutes in. So I'm gonna I'm going to be keeping this this open house open for another 40 minutes. But I have pretty much said my piece. I've pretty much presented the materials that I had, to fill in if there were no questions. So, if you don't have any questions, there's, and you have other things to move on to, I would, I would, I'm going to put the links. I'm going to just put them in the chat one more time. And we invite you to come be a part of us, and hopefully we've talked about our commitment to our registrants, and hopefully in a way that is meaningful. But if you don't have questions, and I encourage, if you have any questions, and again, you can type them in the chat, you can unmute and ask them. But and it doesn't have to be about HCC or risk adjustment. Okay. And, if you have any questions about your career, about other coding skills, this is truly an open house, wide open, barn door is open here. So if you have anything that's gnawing at you, please feel free to ask. If I can't answer it immediately, I'll get you the answer. I'll know who asked, and I can, and you registered with your email, so we could always email you an answer. If after 30 years, I think it would be hard to blindside me with a question. Please feel free. Please take the opportunity here to ask if you have a question. Anybody? And to the HCC coder, I want to congratulate you. Again, I have this sixth sense that I've developed. Clearly, I can see from just the brief communication we had, I can see you're definitely dedicated. I can really, that one where you stated your challenge, that was so well articulated that you couldn't fake, you can't fake that. You can't fake being able to express, if you didn't know what the issue was, you wouldn't be able to express it, right? So you were very articulate in that, and that says a lot. So just congratulations on again, your short timeline, 4 months to find your opportunity, and your indication that it's going well. And it's funny with that credential that you mentioned. Again, that I think that kind of, I could be making an incorrect assumption here, but generally people who go after that credential are long-term, career-minded, upward mobility, those, advancement, et cetera, oriented. And so, and this is not a sales pitch. This is just, 30 years in the business, friendly suggestion, advice, and et cetera. I think it would be, I think it would be very worthwhile for you to be associated with us, to have, somebody at your disposal 365 days a year, et cetera, et cetera. We have an auditing program, and that our next one is starting January 2nd. So, and auditing is a broad spectrum, okay? Because in risk adjustment, there's RADV, risk adjustment data validation audits. Commercial payers have their own audits. CMS, from RAC to CERT to probes, CMS has, the OIG. There's auditing is a very wide space, and so our program really dives deep into the many aspects of auditing. Of course, the mechanics of auditing, requirements of auditing, but again, there's a spectrum of different. There's not a one size fits all audit. You know what I mean? And so there's prepayment audits, there's post payment audits, there's there's an incredible knowledge base associated with auditing. So if your goal is working towards auditing, again, I invite you to I encourage you to consider consider the opportunity that is before you, because we can really help you towards that goal, and we are. I mean, I'll tell you, and if you go look at our reviews, okay, I think that if you read through those, you're gonna see that we are very invested in your desires, needs, goals, etc. And really this goes hand in hand with the cost difference. Okay. We're not here to price gouge people. Okay. We are here to help our colleagues learn, grow, and succeed. And so that, that it comes before the dollar signs. And I built this organization, and I built it on that premise that, yes, of course we can't, we would do it for free if we could, you know what I mean? But that's not, it's not the dollar signs that are paramount to us. It is, it is our registrants, our people, and when I'm educating, my goal is not to educate somebody to be as good as me. My goal is to make those that I mentor, instruct, train, educate better than me. Then I feel that I've done an adequate job. you know and so we're here today on this session. I others, I don't believe that others really do anything like this to this degree. And so we are different, and I think people really get stuck on the price difference, and maybe they're so conditioned to being and I'm going to be frank, it's my opinion, price gouged. Okay. I know what it costs to run a training organization. Okay. I know what it costs to, I couldn't sleep at night charging those fees. I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Okay. There's just nothing about that makes fair sense. I will be honest with you. So, but yeah, if you want to be an auditor, I would urge you to consider the offer in front of you. We can certainly help you with that goal. Inpatient coding, clinical documentation improvement, compliance. We're not a one-trick pony. So, I can't, everybody, you've heard the term flagship, the flagship store for or flagship restaurant for a chain or whatever, so risk adjustment HCC is our flagship offering, but it's not our only offering. And so, I'm all talked out. I don't know what else to say. I was hoping for some more questions, and again, I encourage more questions. I'm going to stop my video here for just a second. Not the presentation, but just the video for a moment. And and again, take a moment and don't do, that thing that we all do, okay, where we have the opportunity to ask a question, we can't think of one, and then as soon as the opportunity is gone to ask the question, then we think of a ton of them. So take a moment and just see if if there's anything deep down inside of you gnawing at you that you want to ask. No, silly, there's no such thing as a silly question or too small a question, whatever. There's really no limit to the question. So take a moment. And so just again, you can unmute yourself if you wish to speak and articulate. You can use the chat. Oh, and let me put this in there. Info at AAOMCP.com. And here's our email address, but you can always go to our website and open a chat. Okay. And if we are either, if the response time is too long because we're helping somebody else, or if you happen to do it at 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that, if you open a chat, it is going to be preserved. If we see that it hasn't been answered, we will answer it. So in other words, if you go at 4 o'clock in the morning and you're not getting a response, and you leave, we will see that when we are back in attendance at the chat, and we will respond. So it's not like it's going to disappear or anything like that. So and the other thing I always do, and I almost forgot to do this, my phone number, my personal cell phone number is 725-529-0685. I'm putting that in chat, and you are more than welcome to use that as well. 725-529-0685. Now, look, I get the same robocalls, telemarketer calls, you want a trip calls, your car's warranty is out of date calls. So my suggestion is, if you have not contacted me before, to send a text first. And so that way I can put you in my contacts list, and then then once that's done, then I know you're not trying to sell me a car warranty, unless somebody has a sideline here selling car warranties. But again, the CEOs of most other organizations are not handing out their cell phone number and encouraging you to use it 24/7, 365. So hopefully you see that as one of the many differences between us and virtually every other source out there. Do we have any questions? Anything burning? Anything, anything gnawing at you? I'm here to answer anything I can answer. I am here to answer. And if I don't have the answer, I'm going to get it for you. Okay, so don't be shy. Don't be shy. And don't later on say, oh, I wish I had asked this. Don't do that. If you have a question, ask. It's what we're here for today. Okay, so don't miss the opportunity, seize the opportunity. So we're here to help you in any way that we can, and we thrive on that. That is, as I said, that's the most gratifying, satisfying, personally for me. That's, and let me just tell you a little bit about where that comes from. I've had a long, satisfying, rewarding career, and I would not change a darn thing when it comes to the fact that from my very first job in healthcare, I have had, and even today, even as a business owner, I still have mentors. I've had an incredible, almost unbelievable, almost statistically impossible run of great mentors. And so I'm a firm believer in the benefit of mentors, both, hopefully me being a mentor, and my belief in always having a mentor, even after 30 years, even after, owning a business. It doesn't stop. And so, it's well, thank you. Somebody said that they have to drop. Thank you. And, so again, mentoring it can really be that X factor in your career. It can really be a difference maker. And so, the fact that I'm not getting questions here makes me, makes me wonder a little bit. I mean, I have questions every day. Maybe I should ask you guys questions. Maybe, but I do encourage you to ask if you have any questions. That's why we're here today. And I've been speaking for 90 minutes, over 90 minutes. So I'm going to kind of sit back for a moment and again, the floor is open. So I would encourage you to ask anything that you may have. So. Anybody? If you don't, and if you're still thinking, then certainly feel free to stay on. But I've shared what I have to share today. And so, if you desire, you may take what I've shared and depart, or you may, sit and listen to silence, or, if you're still formulating any questions, certainly you could hang on. But, I've shared what I have to share for the most part here. Now is the opportunity for me to share responses to questions. So. And I actually believe that since we're in the last 20 minutes and we haven't had anybody new join since we started, I'm just going to give it another minute here, and see if anybody does jump in, either by unmuting or submitting a question via chat. But if not, I think I'm just going to end this session a little bit early, and because I have another session later on this afternoon, so I could use the breather. And so again, please do not leave with something on your mind, please feel free to ask. And if not, as I said, here in a moment, I think I'm going to bring this session to a conclusion. So since there's not anybody new, in the last hour who has joined, and we will get set up for the next session. So I have 39 after the hour. I'm going to give it to 41 after the hour, and bring it to a close. So you have another minute or two to unmute and ask, or type a question in the chat. Again, I did provide the email there. I provided my cell phone number. Again, if you use the cell phone number, it's advisable to text first if you've never contacted me before. And again, also at AAOMCP.com, you can always open a chat. And that's where we are. Looking at another 60 seconds. And if you need more time, then at least chat and say, I'm formulating a question. Let me know not to end it prematurely. Okay. So thank you for being with us. Hopefully the information we've shared has been beneficial to you. And please don't hesitate to reach out if we can assist, at any time. And just remember, through Sunday, you have the opportunity for, the best value you'll ever see. So, after Monday, we go back to our regular pricing, which is certainly, in all cases, always far more competitive than others. But, through Sunday, you can really, really, really take advantage of some extraordinary value. So thank you, folks, for joining us, and please reach out if we can assist you at any time and in any way. Thanks, everybody.